And welcome back to Chef Koinange, live at the Intercontinental Hotel here with two not only amazing and expert English speakers and experts in Greek and, I guess, Shakespearean literature, if you will. I'm talking about Dr. PLO, Lumumba, and Barrack with the 2 hours Muluka. We're here to speak about the state of the nation, your tweets coming in thick and fast, and a tweet from someone calling himself at PLO Lumumba, with PLO Lumumba's face, everything, and part of your English. This says something like, let Ryla's extemporaneous expatiations have intelligibility and voracious vivacity without rhodomontade or thors.
Sounds like him.
Sounds like PLO.
Sounds like him.
It doesn't.
Must be him.
Is that English?
They are English words. The words are English words. If you check them out in the dictionary, you'll find them. But the arrangement offends English.
The arrangement of these words
offends English.
What do you tell this individual who's trying to be you?
Stop it. Stop it. Be yourself.
Yes.
Stop it.
A bit of parody is in order.
But it shows maybe they're your mashadics.
Yes.
Maybe. To that extent, you can give them a little latitude.
Gentlemen, Matemu at the EACC and his assistant Irene Kano, looks like they are on their way out. What does that translate into, Barrack?
You know, Matemu and Irene Kano, just like PLO, our friend here, they don't know why they were taken to Integrity Center. You see, when you are taken there, you are meant to be a scarecrow. But they get there and they start thinking that they've been sent there like bulldogs that are meant to bite. So they start exposing their teeth and they want to bite. And they must be shown the door very quickly. And these things begin happening the moment that you are starting to see some tangible progress, that some true fish, big fish, regardless that it's dry fish from the past or that it's fresh fish, fresh from the waters. The moment you start seeing that happening, they gang up very quickly their loads of impunity.
And they close ranks.
And they close ranks and they show them the door. So I think the lesson here is that if you're made the director of the EACC, deputy director, or whatever, you get there and you sit pretty. You get a salary, and if people come with some inducement, you take it and eat quietly with your wife and or husband and children.
Yes.
At the end of your tenure, you go away.
Dr.
And
PLO,
Kenyans don't have the outrage.
Doctor, do you agree?
You know, it is a very sad thing, Jeff. You've seen that what has happened, what is just about to happen to my good friend Matemu and Irene Kano is the same thing that happened to Aaron Ringera and Smokey Wanjala and Fatma Sichale, happened to me and Pravin Bauri and Dr. Mutonyi and Onsongo and Wilson Shole. That when you begin to discharge the mandate which is assigned to you in accordance with the law, the lords of impunity, the children of darkness, gang up and they remove you. And the tragedy is that the Kenyan population is never outraged. If you look at experience in Tanzania, for example, the gentleman who is there, Dr. Hosea, has been there. He has seen Ringera off, he has seen Mutonyi off, he has seen me off, he's now seeing Matemu off. So the nation will never, in this way, succeed in the fight against corruption, because immediately you begin to gain traction, then you are shown the door. And the country does not come to support you. A similar thing happened to our counterpart in Romania, and the people were on the streets until they went back. It happened in India, the same thing.
Yeah.
But in Africa, it would appear when, of course, in South Africa, they disbanded the Scorpions and McCarthy was thrown away. In Nigeria, they did that to Nuhu Ribadu and nothing happened. Here, of course, we know the fate of John Githongo and the rest that I've mentioned is a tragedy of gigantic proportion, and is because of the high tolerance that many Kenyans have for corruption. But let me tell you, one day, when our cup of iniquity is full, corruption will consume this country. It will consume this country.
It will consume.
Oh, history has demonstrated times without number that it consumes countries when countries don't take charge and fight it with one accord.
On that point, Barrack, what does that say about the list of shame, these 176 officials who are suspected to have been involved in corruption? Will those names disappear? Will they?
That's part of the initiative now, because the people who are supposed to own that process, we are seeing them being bundled out. And I'm not surprised that the initiative, having come from wherever it did come, ended up before the necessary and relevant parliamentary committee that it then came on the floor of the House. And the House has decided that Matemo and Irene should go through some kind of commission that is going to inquire into their conduct. First, if I were Matemo, I would not subject myself to the ignominy of being put in doubt. I would tell them, look, this is a job that requires integrity. My integrity has been questioned, and I must be like Caesar's wife. I must be above reproach. I step aside. They can carry on with the investigations that they want. Meanwhile, good old corruption is safe and well. The 170 whatever names have got no honor. There's nobody now who is going to be pursuing the process. What's going to happen in the interim is that files are going to disappear, records are going to be destroyed. This then becomes just another game of musical chairs in the long run. In the fullness of time, the time is ticking away. The 60-day deadline is coming. The guillotine will descend. And I don't know what the head of state is going to do.
Tick tock, tick tock. Okay, what about governors? You know, okay, there have been some people who have stepped aside, which was great to see, but we don't know for how long. Governors have adamantly stuck to their guns, PLO, and some allegedly stealing or being involved in schemes of up to 800 million shillings. Come on, man. Where do you get 800 million shillings from?
You know, Jeff, one of the things that I was famous for, if fame is the word to use, was saying that we must have a lifestyle audit. And if you audit the lifestyles of these individuals as against their known legitimate income, 100% of them will never account for their wealth. And we have a group of individuals. I'm aware that people are innocent until they are proven guilty, but we are simply saying that aspersions have been cast against you and that you ought to resign. Kenya has an innovation, something we call step aside. So even if I'm prepared to live with that. In the neighborhood in Tanzania, we have seen a former prime minister resign, taking political accountability. The former prime minister, Edward Lowassa, who is now going to be a presidential candidate, resigned. Minister Megji, their former attorney general, resigned. They are saying, I'm not criminally culpable, but I'm taking political responsibility. In Kenya, when a person is named in what is called the list of shame, they are not ashamed. In fact, they are emboldened. They then give press conferences and they warn people and they tell people that they are going to stick there willy-nilly. The tragedy is because we worship these individuals and the material things that they have, they think that we will spare them until the day that we put the mark of Cain upon their foreheads and we reject them. We reject their tithes in church. We reject their contributions in Harambes and hit them where it hurts most. Take away their wealth. Remove them from water like we would of fish. Then they will know that it's not business as usual. For the moment, we celebrate them. And because we celebrate them, they laugh at us. And they know that they'll remove you. Now the question that you asked, Barrack, which must be answered, the question that we must now ask, in the absence of commissioners, if a tribunal is appointed, is there a legally, properly constituted EACC? And I will not be surprised if people go to court say that the body that has purported to prepare files against us is improperly constituted and therefore incapable of making recommendations to the DPP. We have given these mandarins ammunition and they are going to use it to good effect.
Translation, business as usual.
Yes, if we are not careful.
Barrack, the huge conference that's been getting a lot of airtime lately, the Governor's Devolution Conference in Kisumu State. And the governors are there talking about how great they're doing, how wonderful their counties are doing, how they want more money for devolution to get their projects done. And yet some of these same governors are implicated in corrupt deals. I mean, come on. Does this, how does this gel? How do you justify that?
It cannot be justified, Jeff, PLO. It cannot be justified. I think one of the things that we must entrench, we must make integral to our national character and culture is that you can step aside. I don't know whether stepping aside sometimes means that you step out of the way of the object that's supposed to be coming to hit you because you are corrupt. They should step down. That these people should step down once you are implicated. Of course, we do not doubt that there is the case of witch hunting, that could also happen. But the punishment, even for witch hunting, also ought to be stepped up to the extent that if you're found to have gone out to make false and justified allegations against somebody, that in the fullness of time, the law will also deal with you. But I think it's the height of scandal that you can be named adversely, that a firm such as Mumias has come down, and everybody knows that it has come down. Yeah. And you have been in charge over a period of time, and you're being told that, look, mister, give way so that this thing can be investigated, and instead what you do is you go and look for your followers, your acolytes, and you are marching impudently through the streets of a town, going to the Integrity Center and making mockery of the whole thing. I think that is not acceptable. The conference, I think, is a good thing, that every so often people must take stock of what they are doing, where they are coming from, where they are, accept the mistakes that they have made, and I do hope that questions of integrity will feature prominently at this conference, and that when they talk about the future, because we want to see the Kisumu platform of action, that at the end of this week, the people who are assembled in Kisumu at our expense, because they're spending public funds, must come up with a Kisumu platform of action that this country can believe in, that can propel us into the future, and that one of the items on the Kisumu platform of action is a question of integrity and how we are going to deal with the issues of corruption.
Yeah, PLO, let's face it, this pesa mashinani has turned out to be pesa mfukoni.
One must say that there is a sense in which devolution has been useful. When you go out in different, I was in Nyeri about a week ago, and I was quite impressed with some of the things that are beginning to happen in the coffee industry, in the tea industry, in the dairy industry. I've been to Taita Taveta, and I've seen what has happened there. I've been to Kiambu and a number of places.
Or come to Kakamega, for that matter.
I was with him in
you
Kakamega.
See some of the best roads that have come up as...
Best is not the word, but they are good roads.
They are best in our context. But things like best are relative. So there are some of the best roads.
Yes, so there is a sense in which
fact, when you want to know that you have left Siaya and you're in Kakamega, just look at the roads.
You've been to see the good roads.
Yes, that's devolution.
I think there is a sense in which devolution has been useful. What we are saying is that we are punching under our weight, that we could do better. And taking stock, as my friend Barrack has said, is a good thing. Going forward, therefore, what we should do is to identify the function that can be best performed at those levels, and then money will follow functions, and we have men and women who will use that money for the best interest of their communities. I know in a certain place where a pit latrine with 2 doors is said to have cost 3 million. From the last time I checked, it should cost 55,000. So this idea of theft in accordance with the law is what we should deal against, and we'll ensure that devolution serves well. It has served well in South Africa, served well in the Scandinavians. It is a good thing. We are only a few years into devolution, and going forward, if we become more vigilant, devolution will be what will unlock the potential of many places. The Mandera people will tell you so, the Turkana and Wajir and many people will say that, and it's a reasonable testimony.
Yeah, PLO just alluded to something I was going to save till later on, but since he's mentioned South Africa, let's go into it. Barrack, the xenophobia tax, burning non-South African Africans, literally, and people celebrating. This Mandela's hardly cold in that hole that he's in, and look what they're doing to their fellow Africans.
See, the first thing is that the independent African state, South African state, is going the same way that African states have gone. They have ridden on the momentum of what they inherited from the Mzungu, the apartheid regime, for all its excesses and all its negativity. Yeah. But it had developed the economy to a certain extent. It was an economy that was informed by exclusion, that the African people were excluded. They did not get the opportunity to go to good schools, to get the right kind of core competencies that would put them in certain positions. And so that opened a void, and that void saw people coming from elsewhere from the continent, and they've been able to occupy that space and to start doing something for themselves and for that economy. However, the government that did come in place ought to have, in the very first instance, started planning the future of its own citizens. These are people who are frustrated, and they start looking for the next object in the way, and they say it is these foreigners. What really embarrasses most, and I don't know whether it embarrasses more than the xenophobic killings, is the silence of the African Union. If it was an African head of state who was in a bit of trouble, they would be in Addis, they would be issuing statements, they would be issuing ultimata. But this is business as usual. Yeah. When ordinary Africans die, it's just rubbish that is burning. What the people who sit in the palaces of this continent should know is that one of these days, this rubbish that is catching fire is going to burn all the way to the palaces where they operate from.
PLO, you agree?
I can't agree more. And the tragedy is, Jeff, is that my prognosis of the situation is not positive. Going forward, remember that South Africa has not answered the land question. Remember that South Africa has not answered the unemployment situation in South Africa. So it may be quelled in the next few weeks, but going forward, the message that they have sent to the Malawians, to the Mozambicans, to the Kenyans, to the Nigerians, is that this is not a safe place for you. Don't invest here, because you never know when we are going to burn it down. And the lukewarm approach that we have seen from the South African administration, from SADC, from the chair of the African Union, as is rightly said, is very worrying. So what one must ask, how can we genuinely build a pan-African movement, build an Africa where there is no regard to borders and boundaries, if we have this idea of black upon black? The South Africans also forget that during the struggle for apartheid, those who absorbed their blows were the Malawians, the Zambians, and everybody else. They had a school here, the Solomon Mahlangu School in Dar es Salaam. That is where they were. The headquarters of the entire frontline movement was in Dar es Salaam. Memories are short and selective. They also forget that the business, the DSTV, the pay and pick, and all these other businesses outside of South Africa are in sub-Saharan Africa, and that if we decided to pay an eye for an eye, then the entire continent will go blind. I hope that wisdom and sense will grip them, and that they should think that they cannot destroy that which feeds them.
Yeah, very embarrassing. I'm sure Mandela must be spinning.
And the president's son has been cited in these things as sounding like he was justifying it. Yes. We don't know whether he was a sounding board.
Yeah, what a shame.
What a shame.
What a shame. Gentlemen, we're going to take a break, come back. So we haven't mentioned Obama yet. July 23rd, he's supposed to be here. Should it be a public holiday?
No.
Just for people to stay away?
Nah.
If we just want a holiday, we can make it, but this economy is too small
not
to
for
allow
the son
for
of
too many.
Nah.
Let's talk about it. At Barrack M, at Koinange Jeff, PLO. We're still trying to get him a Twitter handle. We'll try.
We lend him that one.
The parody.
Yes.
And apologies for the microphone. I think my English is not as good as these gentlemen, so the microphone is not picking it up as well as it should. we'll work on it, and maybe at the next break we'll have the mic working. And of course, we'll read your tweets right here on Jeff Koinange Live. Jeff Koinange Live takes a break. We'll be right back in a moment.